dude.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Faith and Whatever. We are on episode 22. We are excited to be joining you. This week, we are joined by rapper extraordinaire, Everest, the MC. He is at soundcloud.com /iEverest. So be sure to check him out there. Everest, or Sergio is his real name. Sergio is a good friend of mine and a good friend of the podcast, and he's an interesting guest, and we're super excited to have him on. This series that we're going to be doing is called Religion and Perspective, where we're going to be examining people from different faith backgrounds, and that includes people from a proclaimed no faith background. So Sergio is a good friend, and we have had many a discussion on the validity or lack thereof regarding just religion in general. And its role in our lives, and really its role in context. So we wanted to have him on to have a different perspective, to see where we can learn, to understand as Christians things that we may not know that we do that are annoying in terms of our conversations with people who would self-identify as an atheist. Is that correct? Am I mislabeling you?
You know what? I mean, I think at some point, definitely, that would have been, like, absolutely my self-identification.
You move into agnostic?
Nowadays,
we're gonna win them.
Not so much. I just feel like it's like too absolute of a title. I almost feel like it's almost it would be on the opposite end of the spectrum of someone who's like super beyond convinced that whatever their religion sort of states is sort of like immalleable.
Sure.
I think if you're an atheist, you're almost the same thing as...
Like a fundamentalist or something?
Yeah, as a fundamentalist, right? Like, neither one of these guys are both set in concrete, and I feel like, I don't know, doesn't give me enough.
And see, everybody,
room.
that's the power of conversation. We've been talking for, I don't know, years, man, and he is way closer to being a Christian than he was when we first started.
Way closer.
So one of the things that we wanted to do was just kind of hear his perspective on things like what apologetics does for him, those types of conversations where people
we probably have people who watch us, or will watch us one day, Christians, well-meaning Christians, who are wondering about the effectiveness of apologetics and whether it's a good tool or not.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yeah, so recently we watched a video, and we're going to have Sergio kind of give his reaction to that video that we already watched. So, so we'll go ahead and...
It probably won't be much different to
let's find out. All
right, here we go.
Okay, let's stop there because we only have 20 minutes, and then I'll sum this up very quickly. We just watched a couple of Ray Comfort videos, and if you want to watch them yourself, look up Ray Comfort and the banana. You can look up Ray Comfort and street evangelism. And Ray Comfort, he's a very famous evangelist, and he has been on television a lot. He's had infomercials. There are lots of Christians, not Christians who are quite like myself, but lots of Christians who very much respect Ray Comfort and what he does. And if I was going to sum up what Ray Comfort does in a sentence, is that he's trying to argue you into heaven, right?
I think that's a fair summation.
So, if this argument Ray Comfort's argument was directed to you, Sergio, what's your reaction here?
This exact argument that he was giving this young man here in the video?
Exactly. Trying to prove how much of a sinner he is and how badly he needs Jesus Christ in his life, according to Ray Comfort.
Well, if I encountered that, I really wouldn't give it 2 seconds of thought. I'd walk right past him and continue on with my life. So it's kind of hard now. If I gave him a moment of my time, I think it wouldn't take me long to realize how close-minded and out of his mind he is. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the assessment.
Okay, so in your experience, so let's get a little bit into to your story. Do you
He's pretty much convinced that whatever it is that he's talking about is the truth. And I'm pretty much convinced to the opposite of that, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I think as simply as I could put it, I don't...
Would you define...
I would have to first believe that the basis of whatever it is that he's speaking of is like fundamentally truthful, logical, rational, and I don't believe any of that. So, it's it's kind of hard for me to sort of give an assessment other than that, which is, I think he's pretty much out of his mind.
Yeah.
And that would be probably the extent of my consideration to what he has to say.
It seems
It's
to
maybe
be
brutal, but that's
No, it's good.
That's
great.
That's pretty much where I.
having spoken to people who would like Ray Comfort, who would like this sort of thing, Christians, that is. It seems like there's this notion that somewhere deep inside the atheist or the unbeliever, we'll put it that way because we're talking about the word atheist, right? So the non-Christian, the unbeliever, that deep inside there is some bedrock of guilt, and you just gotta get in there. And once you tap that, it's all on. Now, how does that make you feel that there are Christians with this notion about you?
That there's guilt that they can tap into, and
There's something inside you that's obviously off. Some kind of guilt in you that
can then be leveraged for good.
Yeah. And you can be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
we want your perspective.
What I'm just trying to do is wrap my head around that entire concept. Is really what it is. It's kind of hard. I'm so far removed, I think, from a mentality where anything that most religions claim is viable to me in any sort of way, shape, or form, that it's kind of hard for me to think like sort of within the confines of a religious mind. And so for anybody to think that they'd be able to tap into, some sort of guilt inside me and sort of that would somehow lead me to, God, I think that guilt is, sort of, I don't know if it's supposed to sort of have some sort of a relationship with religion, I guess, in general. But I do think it's more of a human aspect, sort of more of a human characteristic than it is a tool for the religious to use for whatever purpose. So, it's, to me, saying someone would want to use that sort of a little section of your psychological makeup to their advantage for whatever reason, I mean, seems, I guess it would make sense to some people, but to me it's just sort of like, I don't exactly see the clear connection between the two things. And so I don't think it would affect me any if someone was to try and point out my flaws and sort of like, try to use them against me. At the end of the day, I guess we probably all at some point or another carry guilt in some way, shape, or form. And however we process it is basically up to the individual, which is probably going to be a result of the summation of all of your experience and your psychological makeup and all of that stuff. So, how one person reacts to, that approach, by someone else to try to get them, to see God or whatever it is probably not necessarily how anyone else is going to react to it. So I guess it just boils down to it being subjective. And me, I guess, the best way I could put it is it wouldn't be able to be used against, towards anyone's advantage in that sense with me, because like I said, I'm so far removed from sort of like that. How can I put this? I'm so far removed from believing basically anything that religion claims that I'm sure I don't view it even anywhere relatively near to what you guys might sort of view it as.
So then let's do a little bit of a personal history. What has been kind of your experience with the Christian in general? What has kind of been your exposure?
Well, I was born, into being Catholic.
So
I was born into being a Catholic. My parents were that. While I was growing up, I attended a Catholic school. I guess I did my first communion. I attended Catholic
received
church.
confirmation in the whole nine.
Yeah, I didn't do my confirmation,
Okay.
but I did. I was baptized, so I'm told, and and then I attended Catholic church. I did my, I completed my first communion, and that was as far as I went. And then when I was a little bit older, I guess I was sort of approached and exposed to Christian religion, which I guess they're all Christian, right? They're all sort of like
Flagship, yeah.
They all fall under that umbrella, but the Christian religion, I guess, in the sort of
Not Catholic.
The Protestant
exactly,
sense.
yeah, the sense that exactly the Protestant sense. That's exactly right. And then, so I was actually drawn to it because, and I think this may go for a lot of people, at least from my perspective. I was drawn to it, and I think a lot of it was because to me it felt like a lot less traditional. To me, it felt a lot less controlling. To me, it felt a lot less sort of serious and sort of I didn't feel like I had to walk on eggshells, pretty much, sort of a deal. And I'm pretty sure anyone that's familiar with whatever. I'm sure a lot of people would disagree, but
High five, Protestants. Good job, guys.
at least
Woot.
at least that's was my experience. So I was drawn to it, and there was music, and I love music, and all of those things I think were sort of like, it made it a lot easier to sort of just kind of want to be part of that group of people or that community or and so that happened, and I also think a lot of it had to do with the fact that my girl's family was Christian, and so I don't care, I want to get in good with my girl. Sure, you want to go to that church instead of that one? No problem.
Okay. So
Whatever you want, baby doll.
So in your experience there, so you had a pretty good one, right? Kind of growing up. At what point did you kind of feel yourself start to separate and say, "Hey, this isn't for me," and you started to kind of grow into your own belief?
Basically, I had an older cousin that had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
And, I don't know how sort of deep I would want to get into that.
Sure.
But, I mean, I think the best way to sort of communicate anything is just to be honest and straightforward. He didn't have the best experience, let's say, in Catholic school, I think, growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sort of contributed to him.
Okay, so at
So
around
he's
what age?
so he's a flat out, an atheist, basically. And I'm just about that in every sense of the word. But like I said, it's I don't know. I feel like anything that sort of just pins you down anywhere is like life is ever changing and sort of ever evolving. So to just be confined, like I said, to just about any way of thought or any notion or any idea, to me doesn't sit well with me. But so he didn't have the best experience, and he pretty much communicated that to me. And it's kind of funny because I can look at it now and realize that it's funny because it's sort of like religion, right? Like whatever it is, wherever it is that you come from, that's probably your initial sort of point of view on the world. If you're born to Muslim parents, it's probably what you're going to be, at least at first, and that goes for anything across the board, whether you're Catholic, Christian, whatever other religion, because they're clearly influential on you. They clearly are in a position of power over you. As when you're young, obviously, we all view our parents as people that, we probably think they know it all. We probably think, they're invincible. We probably think they're clearly, the most influential over us and whatever. So it's kind of funny in the sense that it was my older cousin that sort of really started to, have me lean towards the non-traditional viewpoints as far as religion went, because it's like it's inescapable,
Mm-hmm.
It's inescapable that people that you look up to are the ones that most influence you, whether it's one way or the other. And so that's where it started for me, was with him, basically just pointing out like, hey, like, look at this, look at what's going on, whatever. It's really not that hard, right? It's going like, look around, look at all these people that are starving, and there's probably enough food in the world to feed everybody. Look at all these people that are homeless, and there's probably enough space in the world for everyone to have a house. Like, where's the justice in any of this? Where is God if children are starving to death, sort of a deal? And it's, to me, it's pretty impacting, It's kind of like, it's really hard to move around that for me, at least in my mind. It's pretty straightforward, I think, and I was just kind of like, you know what? Obviously, you start to realize this all came from my parents initially, and I think the mentality was, I think I should have a clean slate, and then sort of maybe work my way outwards from that. And so
this is where you've landed.
Exactly. So I think it was sort of like, okay, well, let's not believe anything that I've been told, and let's just sort of like look around. And I think a lot of things are pretty clear, and let's just, I want to educate myself, obviously, in whatever it is that I'm sort of like leaning towards or interested in, or sort of like, and figure it out on my own. So that's pretty much the.
Let me ask you a question here, and the answer might be a no, but I'd like to hear what your answer is, whatever it is. If somebody wanted to share Jesus with you, like, share the gospel, share faith, to have an impact upon your faith or lack of faith. In your mind, is there a positive way to do that with you? Like, is there such a thing as a positive way for a Christian to approach you about Christian faith?
Absolutely. I think, I encounter people on the streets or, wherever, just in life in general. I have a lot of friends and family members that are Christian and stuff like that. So I encounter it, routinely. And, I think to me, it's just a matter of, plain and simple of, it's just a matter of sort of mutual respect and anything, if you approach me in sort of in a pleasant, respectful manner, that's how I'm going to respond. If it's the opposite, that's how I'm going to respond. Yeah. And so it's really based on the person, but when I am approached by people on the street or whatever, I do give them my time, and I try my best to lend them my ear and sort of take it in. But I'll be honest, it's mostly out of respect. I don't want to be.
Sure.
I don't want to be sort of rude, and a lot of the time I'm a pretty blunt guy, and I'm pretty straightforward. A lot of the time I do end up telling them, look, it's probably not the best idea to come by my house and try to sort of, go over God's word with me, because you're probably, to be perfectly honest, no disrespect, but you're probably wasting your time, and that time and energy would probably be used better elsewhere with someone that's maybe sort of
more receptive,
open to that sort of a thing. Yeah, that's exactly right. But right, I think there's some sort of honor in just at least letting them know, like, hey man, I totally respect what you're doing, and I don't find anything wrong with it.
You should keep a stack of Josh's business cards and say, this guy's way receptive. You should stop talking to me and focus on this.
Especially when
guy.
it says you pastor on it. That would be super helpful for them to see.
Well, I know Josh well enough to know that I think ultimately he'd be talking to them, not the other way around.
Only if they're Mormon. So, quick question. Is there something that you wish Christians would stop doing?
Yeah, killing in the name of a Christian God.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think.
Hey, there's common ground with everybody.
Does that happen? Does that happen like sort of overtly anymore?
Yeah.
Who knows? I guess that all depends on the way that you look at things. I think it's messed up that it's probably pretty easy to if I would have said that about like the Islamic religion, everyone I think would have laughed. But since I didn't, but it's understandable, right? If this podcast was being held in Iraq, then the opposite would have been true. If I'm in a region where they're mostly Muslim or whatever. But
What about anything in
I
the
think
day
that's
to
the
day?
nature of everything.
Anything in the day to day that affects you?
That they're annoying with, or that I would like them to stop doing.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can
No,
think of?
I don't really care, man.
Okay, so
I think-
it's all pretty live and let live.
Yeah, let people do whatever they want, man. As long as like I said, even when I do encounter them, it's not sort of a deal where it's like get out of my face. It doesn't matter, man. I'm just kind of, I'm gonna be respectful as long as they're respectful, and that's just the bottom line. I don't have anything against any religions. I don't think I don't have anything against people in general. Just as long as like I said, there's
Don't kill people.
there's obviously there should be a mutual respect between all people. I
How
believe.
dare you?
Well, for being on our podcast, we're going to give you the prize of the entire box set of Ray Comfort's apologetics. We just think they can
Only
really
on
help you.
VHS. It's only coming
Yeah.
on VHS.
I think you might.
So is there anything that
Or HD DVD.
that you've experienced with apologetics specifically, or I mean I know you and I have talked kind of one-on-one with that kind of stuff that you have found to be not convincing but interesting or helpful, or is it all about the dialogue over anything else for you?
Well, I think, I can totally see where a fella like Ray could be, can be somewhat convincing, but I think that speaks more to his sort of like communication prowess than anything else.
And his message, okay.
To be
And his
perfectly
bananas.
honest.
Those are some pretty amazing
Yeah, and he
looking
found the
bananas.
perfect bananas to sort of
Pineapples must
work
be
with on his
really
video.
tough for his faith.
Or something that tastes terrible
That's exactly
Cranberries.
right.
Jackfruit.
Yeah, kiwis.
without sugar.
Yeah, so I like I said, I think he can be convincing in his argument. I think a lot of it sort of, but all of it is tailored, to him, and sort of and all of it is formed and presented by him.
Yeah, almost a confirmation bias.
Well,
We're down to 30 seconds.
yeah, like once he has you within his conversation, you're in his world. It's if you notice in the video, it's basically him controlling the conversation completely, and so it's sort of hard to process all of that and maybe have a countering viewpoint, especially in the moment with a person that has a planned sort of approach against you already.
All right, so we've had I think a pretty good conversation, and we thank you for stopping by and being able to kind of educate and share it with us. I think the big thing that we see in the Christian world is the longer that we work in ministry and the more that we work as pastors, we find ourselves inundated kind of in the church walls with stuff like that, and you almost become accustomed to that as home, as your language, as the way you talk, the way you think becomes very churchy, and so it's super good to kind of hear the perspective from people who are just not even in our faith tradition at all. So I want to give you the last word. Is there anything that you would want, as somebody who is self-proclaimed outside of the Christian faith, is there anything that you would want to leave the Christian listener with in regards to last word stuff, or you feel like you're pretty much good?
I think it's something that I covered, which is just, I think that the most important thing is just that, which is people having a mutual respect for each other, people sort of respecting each other's boundaries, people, allowing each other to, believe what they would like, and just as long as it's not sort of imposing any sort of, not to say that nobody should ever feel any sort of opposition or discomfort or friction in their daily life, but just in a more, I think just in a more sort of like, in a broader sense, just, that's it, as long as we as human beings are able to respect each other and, treat each other with, kindness and sympathy.
Something I would hope our Christian listeners
we can-
and Christians in general would be very good at. there. So very much the semi-pro theory of everybody love everybody.
Where can we find your stuff?
Yeah.
So like I said, it's all online, so you can do. I'm pretty much on every
What's the best one?
Are you on Path?
lane to
Anchor
Which one benefits you best?
or Cut.
I am on Anchor.
Let me see my
know.
my website would be a good one, and that's www.dream-digital.com, and then I'll be on there as an artist. You can find me there, Everest, and then just all the social media, which is soundcloud.com/iEverest, youtube.com/iEverestTV, and Twitter and Instagram are also, the .com and iEverest with a 5 before the T as the S. And that's where you can find me, doing my music, doing my thing, living my life, sort of for the public to see at least.
All right, so it is a very, very good place to reach him. Thank you so much for being on our show today. We hope you enjoyed the perspective that is going to hopefully be one in a long list of people that we'll have on.
Go to all those places and argue him to the faith.
Tell Ray to contact me.
Come at
If
me,
you
bro.
could get Ray to talk to Sergio, that would be awesome.
That's going to be an interesting
Send
conversation.
you some bananas.
Until then, you can find us on Facebook.com/faithandwhatever. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Josh_Carmen. iEver5T. At T Student Life. At James YUILE. And Chris is at Marion Ranch. We look forward to connecting with